Get me now. Will I ever learn? I don't know how. I started to lose control. There's a fire in my soul. Just one look and I can hear a bell. I love ABBA. Hang on. Oh, Mamma Mia, here I go again. My, how can I resist you? Mamma Mia, does it show again? My, just how much I miss you. It's Friday. Must be time for Mamma Mia. So
We haven't done that one in a while.
we haven't, but so Stacy came over to my place, and as my usual Friday nights, I had a bottle of wine open, and what was playing?
Mamma Mia.
Mamma Mia 2, because I prefer Mamma Mia 2 to Mamma Mia 1.
Why?
Because I like the young, cute guys.
Well, yeah. Okay.
And I really like Lily James, the girl who stars in it as Donna. And I just think it feels very light, that movie, very fun
And that whole last scene, like, I'm sorry, if it does not put a smile on your face, your heart is made of rock.
Cher comes out, and you're just like we're not worthy, right?
Exactly.
She's so, and what if you guys haven't seen it, it's worth watching it just to see the twist with Cher at the end. Because the first time you see it, you go, "Oh my god!" Anyways, okay. That's
I was also commenting on the fact that my mom had the LP, so that's when I first heard of ABBA.
Yeah,
on a record player.
I remember driving with my girlfriend Wendy, and her dad had, I don't know what, it must have been an 8-track or cassette, I don't know, in his car. It was ABBA's Greatest Hits.
See, it's interesting, right? Like, now we think, we can use our phones, we can play them in the car, we can play cassettes, but back then we had LPs. We couldn't play those in the car.
No. Do you have a turntable in the car for this? I still have all my LPs. We actually gave them to Spencer. My parents have, do you guys know what a hi-fi is? So that was a very fancy record player. That it was very beautiful in big wood, and it was gorgeous.
But it was a piece of furniture.
It was furniture.
It's just, I think we had one.
I think my mom said my dad paid a month's salary for it, which is a typical guy who would spend that much on a stereo. But and so it's here. And she's got it. Well, Spencer's got it.
The
hi-fi.
Really?
Yeah, and she's got all my records. So it's kind of cool. And she's got all her grandfather's jazz albums, and it's kind of cool.
Well, the sound is still good, and people who like LPs are still saying that the sound cannot be duplicated.
Totally. Yeah. So why are we talking about this? Because it's Friday. And we love Fridays. So this is our last Friday. Yeah. So our last Friday, but not our last live, because you can't get away from us. I think that's why I wanted that other song. Remember?
Yeah, we'll do that.
Rock the boat, don't rock the boat, baby. Rock the boat, don't tip the boat over. Okay. Our last time you'll have to hear us sing on a Friday, but you get to hear us sing on a Monday.
So we're still here on Monday, but yes, this is our last Friday. So if you missed Tuesday, we did make an announcement that what we're doing is we're consolidating sort of the Monday, Tuesday, Friday into Monday. So Monday at noon we'll be live. Same thing with the
1.
We will be live at 1:00.
Yes.
We changed that yesterday. So Mondays we'll be live at 1:00, and we're going to do sort of a combo show. Yeah. So we're going to teach, we're going to talk about the tech, if any, and then we'll also answer questions at that time as well. So we'll just expand that one. We felt that it was just a little bit disjointed, and by Friday, a lot of people had kind of, what did you guys talk about? What can I ask? Or they'd ask a question on Monday. And then it wouldn't get answered till Friday because we weren't live again. So we thought, you know what, let's just combine everything. That way you've got everything you need in one spot.
Yes. So it's really exciting. And Monday, we're going to talk about mastering your launch. So for those of you who have been with us working on your programs and working on everything you wanted to get to go online, we're going to talk about now, how do you actually launch it if you finished or not finished?
So I remember a few years back, I went to this all-day workshop that was about launching. So that's how he positioned it. It was all about launch. Like, great, you know what? I just wanted to nail it. And I know that your mastermind had talked about it, but I just wanted another person's opinion and just to see where it was going in my head. I know what it was thinking. So funny. And this is what kind of drives me crazy is when somebody positions it sort of one way and then they teach the next. And literally, in all seriousness, they spent 5 minutes on lunch because I kept asking because that's what I wanted, right? I knew everything else. Tell everybody.
And he probably told you to finish it all too before you launched.
What? What? That's your strategy? That's not a strategy.
No.
That's just that. No.
So should we wear a sandwich board and stand on the corner?
Exactly.
Go to this URL and buy my product. I would be telling everybody that drove by us.
That was all he
Might be kind of interesting experiment.
Exactly. Wear the A-frame. Should I wear like a really big, bouncy hat or
well,
something?
we could wear the Super Mamma Mia costumes.
There we go. That would get attention. What are they launching? I'm just gonna go check it out just because they look so ridiculous.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I thought that was interesting. But yes, there is more to it than just tell everybody.
Yeah.
I did have to stay there for the entire day because there wasn't very many people there. So I felt kind of bad, like going, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
I already know more than that.
Exactly.
So be careful of what people are trying to sell you.
Yeah.
You may not get the information you need.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
saying.
Yeah, exactly. So it is Friday. Do we have
is.
any questions? What did we talk about this week?
Well, I think you know what happened on Monday was the big tech, the internet broke.
Yeah, it did. It broke for everybody in the whole world.
So unfortunately, a lot of people were watching the replay and stuff like that. A lot more people were able to join on Tuesday, which was really good. So we don't have a lot of questions from then, I think, just because, again, the internet broke.
Right.
So maybe we'll just do a quick summary of what we talked
Well,
about.
we're talking about digital products, right? And creations and understanding that you can pretty much make anything that you want as a digital product in your expertise and your whatever you know. And how important it is to actually understand that if, it is wanted, if it's needed, and the other, all the avenues you can use to get it out there. So if you actually paid attention and listened on that day, you will probably be ready to do the launch on Monday, right? Where we're going to tell you details. We're going to tell you about our launches, right? We're going to tell you about the successful ones and the ones that tanked.
Learn from our mistakes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, with everything else, we've gone through it. I've had amazingly successful, kind of surprising. I was like, wow, like this really took off. So I start to look at it, and then like one that I think is like, wow, like this is awesome. Crickets.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating from this. We have learned some actual.
Yeah.
Aside from just tell everybody.
And that's how you learn. You can't really, we can tell you everything you should do, but until you actually do it and go through one and make some mistakes, because you will, right? Because no matter what you're told, you'll always think that you've got some sneaky little way to make it better. and including me, I thought that too. And then I realized, oops, I'm wrong. No, I should stick to, what was working and what was good. And because what happens is, so if you have a successful launch, sometimes that's a problem too, because then what you do is you kind of sit back and get your foot off the pedal because you think, hey, this is easy.
I'm good. I know what I'm doing now. And you know what? I'm going to do exactly the same thing next time.
Exactly.
That doesn't work either.
Yeah. So, I mean, the key though is understanding what you created. Like, is it anything that anybody wants?
Well, I think that's the interesting part, because sometimes you get into the world of this is really good.
Right.
So's chocolate cake.
Yes. I just don't need it.
And I think on the opposite front, which is something that I had posted on social media this week, was also as the consumer, sometimes you also get taken in with the chocolate cake. So It's like, wow, this looks so good and blah, blah, blah. But is it actually something you need?
Right.
And will it actually give you everything you need to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish?
Right.
Because I know I have unfortunately purchased products where it's given me this much, but what I need is this much. So it doesn't give me everything. It gives me a little piece. Now I have to go find that one other piece somewhere else.
Yeah.
Now I have to go find that other piece somewhere else.
And they don't match. That's the problem, because there's many different ways. I was going to say a horrible old expression, but I'm not going to say it. There's many different ways to do something.
Yep.
And they all work. But the key is stick with one person or stick with one way of doing it and just go ahead full out and do it. Because the problem is if you learn a piece here and a piece here and they don't match, right? They have very different ideas of how it's done, then you won't be successful.
Well, I think the problem is that, again, so this person teaches sort of this section of what I needed, but then this person, when I bought this part, reviewed But again, because it didn't line up, I didn't understand sort of how to use this piece in this part of it because it wasn't connected. So as a consumer of digital products, just make sure it's something that you need and that it's a complete process that takes you through everything, because then you can see how one part builds on another.
Right. And on the flip side, you need to make sure that what you deliver is going to actually do something for somebody. Because
there's that piece too.
Because when we're creating something, the challenge is when we're in it, we're in the thick of it, it's hard for us to see it on the outside. So you really need to ask somebody else's opinion. Like, do you understand what this is? Is it clear? Do you know what you do after each training module, or after you read the book, or after you listen to the audios? Because if there's no next steps, right? Sometimes you'll get programs that are just, they talk a lot, but they don't tell you what to do next. So you don't want to be one of those creators.
Like, tell everybody.
Yeah.
That's a very short module, by the
way. Like, what does that mean? So if I was doing that module, tell everybody, I would say, okay, this is what you do. Send out an email, get your contacts, post your social media. Like, so we would go through the checklist that says, this is how you do it. Not, that's why we give you a lot of tech. And when we're talking about topics, because a lot of the training that you get maybe from other places don't tell you those. And then you're like, well, okay, I want to do that, but how do I do it? Right? Like, how do I do it? Because they don't even talk about what they use. We tell you everything we use ad nauseum, probably. And I just it's hard to even keep track of it all, but we're both cheap. So we don't spend a lot of money on our tech. We usually get lifetime deals, but it's because we only use what is relevant and good. And so we don't want to keep it a secret. Like some of these people that do trainings, they keep it a secret, right? Oh, well, they don't want to know. They don't want anyone to know what they're using. Like, that's the stupidest, because you can go into code and check it out.
Exactly.
But the whole point is, if you want to be successful, you need to share everything that you can teach somebody. You don't hold things back, right? You don't hold things back.
Or it's like, wait, I'm not going to tell you anymore because you need to spend another, $5,000 to find out the real secret. This was just like the introduction.
Yeah, this was only $2,000, so it wasn't very much. So if you spend the $5,000, which is, don't get me wrong, I had a mastermind that was $10,000. It was a great program. You learned a lot, and you had a lot of my time in it, right? But you have to investigate what each of those is, right? Like, what is involved when you spend $10,000, $20,000? Some of them are incredibly valuable.
Well, yeah, if they're going to give me, templates or, more bonus training or something like that, I'm usually all in.
Mm-hmm.
But again, if I feel like they're holding back, that's the part where I kind of start to question, what am I going to get at that next level? Yep. So I like courses that, again, they give you everything. Then it's, on top of that, now you can really dive deeper and get, with all of this sort of other stuff,
right?
Planning.
Just so you guys know, that isn't the tech you're hearing. That's my dog. So he's
not happy.
He's not happy. He's going up to the cottage, but he's afraid
and why is he not happy?
Because he thinks everyone's going to go and leave him. And so he's like, oh man, I'm going to be stuck with her. She's on her computer all day.
She's very boring. No offense, I'm very boring to my dog. Yeah. My dog comes in the office and will lay down and look at me, and then I'll get up and it's like, seriously?
Exactly.
I just got in here. Could you not just sit still for a minute?
Exactly.
And then he has to go downstairs again.
Exactly.
Yeah. We're very irritating to animals.
So if you guys are still on the fence about putting out a product, you really should just start with something simple, like put out a little freebie webinar or a freebie, 5 email sequence. Here's a 5-day challenge and you deliver it on email. Mm-hmm. Anything. You can even charge $5 for it. And people will pay, if they think, okay, I'm going to get some value out of this challenge. And it's not, so hear me out on this. It's not because you're going to make a ton of money on $5 each challenge. But what it does is it makes people show up. So if you even put $1 or you put $5 out on your credit card and you go buy something, you feel obligated to go, right?
Yeah, and that was probably one of my most successful sort of intro programs, but it was a digital product. I charged $5. It was a challenge, and the engagement was much higher because previous to that, I did a free one.
Right.
And people, they kind of hang out for a couple of days, but whatever, because they didn't invest anything of themselves. So that $5 was so inexpensive to them.
Yeah.
And it was pretty much free, but because they had invested even just a couple of bucks, it made them more accountable to showing up. They did the challenge, they were engaged, and I was able to sell a lot more after that.
Yeah. So it's always key, right? You have to, you have to be comfortable with obviously what you're giving out. You have to be comfortable about the digital product you're creating. And, for some of you, it's going to be a book, and maybe you're going to do an Amazon book and put it on Create Space, and that's costs no money to do. Wow, he's going crazy.
The dog is, can anybody let me know if you're there? Can you hear the dog in the background?
Sounds like he's like losing the fight, but he's only fighting with himself. So
poor dog. It's interesting because I remember, so we got our dog 9 years ago in June. He's a service dog. So, but one of the things that they said was, when you go to bring the dog home, that the dog's going home.
Yeah.
The dog doesn't know that.
No.
So your dog, as
doesn't
much as we all
going.
know that the dog's going, the dog doesn't know.
The dog doesn't know he's going.
Right? You can't tell the dog, 1 sec, we're just getting in the car, we'll come back for you.
No.
It doesn't work like that.
No. So that's kind of like your, like when you're doing a digital product, you have to tell the people that buy your product, don't worry, we're coming back for you. We're starting next week. So don't worry, we're not forgetting about you. So you need to send some of those emails out to make sure that they know the start date if you're dripping it out, And so it's a good question that I get asked a lot is, why should you drip out versus giving them everything at once? And it's kind of a unique one because Stacy and I are both, how we consume is we want everything because we would sit there and do it. But we also intellectually know that you will learn more and implement more if it's dripped.
Yeah.
So, but what do we mean by drip? Because when we say words that you guys don't understand, you have to stop us. So,
it's literally, just think about that, like the water, a little bit at a time.
Yeah.
Because that is the way that 99% of the people in the world, we're weird, will consume it. Because if you get a little bit of information at a time, whether maybe sometimes it's weekly or even daily, you can consume little chunks, but I don't like that. I want to be able to read and access. So one of my biggest pet peeves
is the dog.
No, not the dog. No issue with the dog. One of my biggest pet peeves when I joined Face Mastermind a million years ago.
Here we go.
I'm just going to preface it by saying how she did it was the right way to do it, especially knowing my personality. So I wanted everything.
Yeah.
And I even challenged her on that by saying, but this is how I work. Now that I'm in, I want to be all in. And one of her first questions was, if I gave you access to this module, which was like 5 or 6 ahead of where I was, she goes, would you watch all the rest? And I'm like, no, shut up. So she was right. And it's true. So it forced me to do the other modules previous to the ones that I really wanted to do. Because she goes, all you're going to do is jump ahead.
Right.
And that's not the way that you need to do this program.
No.
So she was right, even though it was hard for me to hold myself back and do it. But when I got to that module that I really wanted, I was able to understand it so much more. So sometimes, even though you may not love, there is a method to the madness.
Well, think about, for those of you, everybody here, I'm sure watches Netflix or they watch Prime or something, right? So it's kind of like, have you ever watched a series and you're on like episode 6, right? And there's like 8 episodes. And then whoever you live with comes in and they sit down and they say, what's been happening? And there's no way you can actually fill them in on everything that's happened so that they will understand what 7, 8, 9 is about. And they'll never understand how good the show was because they didn't watch all the episodes. So it's kind of
I tried that recently because I was literally on season 2 and my husband came in and he's like, so what is it? I'm like, I can't. I tried in very basic terms to try to explain the show.
Yeah.
And he goes, and you're still watching that? And I'm like, okay, well, I haven't done it justice. So you go catch up and then we'll meet you in the middle.
Exactly.
So you're right. You can't skip ahead. And so think about that when you're going through different programs that drip things out. There is a strategy.
Yeah.
There is a process to go through. So because each one builds on the next. So if you skip ahead, then you won't understand it.
Yeah. And I will tell you that sometimes when you get access to everything, and I have some really good programs that I got access to everything, and I never watched it all because
that's
it
the
was
other
too
piece.
much.
Yeah.
Like I didn't even know. I wasn't really even sure where to start. I didn't know, there's no one keeping your pace going, right? So if you're fortunate enough to do a program that's dripped, then usually what happens in those drip programs is you get live interaction with the people that are running it. And so like we're doing here, you're allowed to ask us questions. Well, when you're doing a program, that's really key. So when we did course creation for On Point, every Thursday, I was in the group answering questions about the course,
about the module that they
we
had just
done.
completed.
Right. So that at least, if you have questions, you can go ahead and ask them, and it can keep you on track. But you don't kid yourself. We all think, including Stacy and I, we all think we can jump to the back because that's me. I go to the back of the book, try to find the secret, give me the answer, and then I'll read the rest if the answer's good. But then you get to the end and you're like, oh, the answer seems kind of simplistic because I never read the rest of it.
So, and Linda's kind of saying the same thing. If you skip ahead, you'll be more confused than when you started. Let you follow the path, which is exactly what we're saying. So, no, absolutely. And unfortunately, as much as you think that you will go back, even if the answer is, groundbreaking, wow, I didn't expect that. I still don't think you'll necessarily go back. And some of that pre-work and some of the work that you need to put in will help you going forward. Because again, each one will build on the other. So if you miss a piece, it's hard to kind of fill in that blank.
Yeah. So keep that in mind in anything you do. So, we're talking specifically about a course, but it's no different in terms of if you're going to write a book, if you're going to do an audio. So a book is divided into chapters, and each chapter is, if you were taking your book and you have 10 chapters, if you wanted to make it into a digital product, you would make sure what we call the whole system is called your framework, right? And that's what I do as a strategist is we work on frameworks. So you have to make sure that what you're teaching is in a framework. It makes sense. So chapter 1 is the start, and then chapter 2 builds on chapter 1. Same thing with modules, same thing with audio courses, same thing with a webinar. You can't give them all the answers and then go ahead and start breaking it down because nobody's with you. Right?
Everyone's like, what? Exactly. How did you get there? And then they tune out, and that's not what you want.
No. And if you got your framework and you have your strategy, right? So you've got it all out. And let's say, for example, that we've taught you, how to do a podcast. Well, Stacy has a method, right? From what you do first to second to third or to fourth. And so what happens is if you go through it all, then you can go ahead and hire somebody like her or some type of producer to help you produce that podcast when you get it out. But if you didn't go through all the steps, the first question Stacy's going to say to you is, what's it about? And then you're like, oh, you mean I need an idea? I just wanted to do a podcast. But that's number 1, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And how many of those people do you get when they say, I want to do a podcast, but they have no idea what they're going to talk about?
Well, it's fascinating. It's honestly fascinating. And I'm like, because I get a lot of people going, okay, so I'm thinking podcasting is going to be a great medium for my business. Great. What's your show going to be about?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's going to be good for your business. It's kind of like, I'm going to go on Facebook.
Yeah.
Because I think it's going to be good for my business. Great. Why are you doing Facebook? I don't know.
And
why are you on LinkedIn? Why are you on whatever social
Exactly.
channel? Why are you sending out emails? Like, why? I ask a lot of whys. Why do you want to do a podcast? I don't know. I think I should.
Exactly. But what it comes down to usually is you don't really have your signature message, your signature business, your brand, and you don't have that set up properly. Because if you knew exactly what you do, who your niche market is, you know exactly who to go after. If Stacy asked you that question, you would know what to answer. because you wouldn't think about it. You wouldn't have had planned it out. You just would know because that's what your business is, right?
Exactly, because you know you're going to follow that same theme or that same message.
Yeah.
So Linda's saying another reason to go step by step is that when you do understand each piece of the framework, when you do need to do a refresher, you actually know where to look for that answer. That's another really good reason.
Big deal. Yeah, that's a big deal. So I talked about this course before, but I took a course it's a good course, but it's really big, like really big. And they gave it to you all at once, and I never finished it. I probably maybe did a quarter of it because I just went to the sections that I wanted. So sometimes I would get lost and I'd listen and they'd be talking about something in a couple of modules earlier, but I never watched them. So I had no idea what they're talking about. And I never caught up. So and I'm, obviously I'm pretty good at this stuff. So for me to get lost meant that, it really wasn't right to deliver it that way. It should have been dripped.
Exactly.
And and I remember there's someone that does another really great course back in the day, one of the first courses I bought. And it was great, but it was huge, absolutely huge. And I watched almost all of it. I didn't watch all of it because it was like literally hours and hours and hours on each section. And then 10 years later, he revamped it and cut half of it out and dripped it. And so he changed. So he realized that he needed to change the way he delivered the program. So all that is good information for those of you who have done programs. I want you to really write them all down and ask yourself, what did I finish and why? Right? Why did I finish it?
Sorry, I'm confused as to I'm sorry, I got completely distracted.
That's okay.
There's a setting on here that I changed and I didn't realize that this stuck. So I'm always learning something. I'm always noticing. And I'm like, oh, where's our names? They're there, but they're not there. Oh, interesting. I turned that off on my thing earlier and I'm like, I was like, keep talking.
Yeah, shiny object. Thank you for a shiny object. That's what happens, right?
Interesting. All right. Well, anyway.
It doesn't matter. That's okay. So
yes, don't give me shiny objects.
So not a lot of questions, obviously.
Well, I think digital products is an interesting concept because, again, without understanding all of the different pieces, sometimes I don't know what to do or I don't know where to start. So, to do a course, I know the first one that I did, I just did something every day, and it was just sort of some general terms. So because I was just learning, it didn't follow necessarily a path. I had literally, I think it was like a 7-day challenge or something like that. I just wanted to sort of get used to doing videos, and it was free, but I didn't really build. So I didn't have that framework. I just was like, here's a topic. This topic will be day 1 and this topic will be day 2.
Yeah.
But even though it wasn't necessarily following a specific framework and one day didn't build on the next, and it was 7 very different topics,
right? People
still got a lot of value out of it.
Sure.
So because the information was still really good and I had information to share. So I think just that's some of that stumbling block is they think that it needs to be complicated. Right. But if you have a thing to teach and you can do it in a video format,
right? Or
if you were having a meeting, training over Zoom, what would that look like? Then just take that other person out and do that. So I'm always really surprised when people do things in very simplistic ways. And it works. So you don't need to overcomplicate it.
No, you don't. But you do need to make sure that people understand what at least the initial pieces, right? So you can do a Netflix. You can do a Netflix model, which I love. I like membership models, which means that when I need this, I can go get it, right? But you need to have, if you're going to do that route, which is absolutely fine because you just need different topics, you need to have even a 1-page PDF that says, go anywhere you want, but if you want the highest impact, follow the yellow brick road.
Exactly.
Right.
And that was the piece that I wish I had known then. But again, it was the first time I'd ever done it. And I was just like, I just needed to have this done because I wanted to, either not pass or fail, but either succeed or fail.
Yeah.
Which was really good. But Yeah, I just think it doesn't need to be as overwhelming. Like you said, an ebook can be a really low cost item.
Yeah. My first products were my feng shui ebooks.
Yeah.
And they were $29 and $39 back then, back 100 years ago.
A million, yeah.
And they were just PDFs and they were just downloads. There's nothing else with it. That's all there was. And they did really well. So you can't say, no, I can't do it. You can. It's just putting it together and making sure. So the easiest, simplest way to do it is if you are going to teach somebody, oh, should I use fishing? If you're going to teach somebody how to fish, you would show them the tools and the equipment they need. You would show the proper way to do it. You would tell them.
The last person in the world that you're ever going to see in a fishing boat is this one.
It's true. You would show them you would tell them where is the best fishing. No? I know nothing about fishing, but it sounds like I do. But you would tell them all of that, right? So you'd say, here are all the things you need to know. And then you can sit back and go, okay, this is everything they need to know. If I was going to tell them in which order they needed to know them, then that's how you would lay it out. And there's no different than teaching your kid how to do laundry or how to, take the dishes out of the dishwasher. Or for those of you who were ever in retail, which boggles my mind to this day, retail, you usually get young kids, right? So we had a retail store. I ran Godiva. And so you had to, when you said clean the shelf, you actually had to tell them to start at the top because they would start at the bottom. And then you go, but when the dust then will just get right. And they would be, oh, okay, that makes sense. But if you were never told, how would you know, right?
Yeah, it's true.
So that's how you have to think about your product, your book, whatever you're putting out. If somebody knows nothing, how are you going to teach them?
Well, it's the same thing if you were going to consolidate a small portion of it into one webinar. So, the 10 ways to do laundry.
Yeah.
Then you would literally...
Which you don't know anything about.
I don't know. I do laundry. What are the steps that you would follow? So you would literally write those steps down sort of 1 to 10 and you can expand on them. So you would have like an hour webinar. And then if you were to break those, and again, Faye's talked about this before. So if you're taking that one step and you're breaking it, into a bigger piece, then that would be like a course. Like each step would be its own module, but they would follow that path because they can't take the clothes from the washer and put them in the dryer without actually washing the clothes first.
Yeah.
So same concept.
Yeah. So you just have to sit back and realistically say, okay, how would I simplify and make it easy for somebody to learn how to do this? And that's what we're always looking to. How do I make this simple for people? And that's what our whole Master-its are about, right? It's how can I make this concept simple so that you guys only understand, the key pieces that you need to know at least to get started, right? We want you, the whole point is to get you thinking so that you even know where you should be thinking.
Yeah, exactly. or again, that you know that to launch something, you need to do more than just tell everybody. I love that. I go for a full day and I get 2 words.
Tell people.
I don't think so.
No.
So again, join us Monday at 1:00. So our time is going to change slightly. So Monday at 1:00 to learn how to launch, the tech needed to do it. And then if you have any questions, we'll answer them right on the spot. So again, this is our last Free For All Friday.
And if you're smart and you're ready to launch, you have a sales page, you might want to bring it with you. Give us the link and maybe we'll just put you in a hot seat on Monday.
Absolutely.
And give you the feedback. And for those of you who've been on hot seats with us, it's great. Like you learn a lot.
And we are happy to, again, on Monday, if you have questions and you want to ask us live, I can absolutely bring you into our feed and we can do that.
Yeah.
If there's links you want us to look at, we can bring those up. I can multitask. So it's all good. So cheers to our last Friday.
Yeah. And now we have to go watch Mamma Mia again.
Watch the first one. I just watched the second half of the second one. So can we go back and watch the first one?
Yeah.
All right. Perfect.
All right.
All right. Have a good weekend, guys.
Bye.